tell me what brought you to America from Belfast.
Well, from basically I left Belfast when I was 21. I emigrated to Toronto, Canada. I was there 5 years. Now, within that 5-year period, I mean, we could probably do 4 novels on just that 5-year period, all right? So we're going to jump on that thing, but anyway, 5 years in Canada, and then I made my way down to California around 1960, and from 1960 up until I would say I started working in the movies. I was in the stunt world, acting world, and then I trained a lot of people from all of the major studios, MGM, Paramount, Columbia, you name it. So before they would venture into a movie, they wanted to be in shape. People who were handling them wanted to be in shape. So that way I got to know everything that was going on. But prior to all of that, I had a life of it was a rough time trying to get work. I had, at the time I was in California, for the first to 62, I had gone through 48 different occupations.
Oh, wow.
Exactly 48.
What types of jobs did you do?
From selling encyclopedias around doors, pots and pans, you name it, I've done it. Carpenter's helper, plumber, I had an engineer degree, which I never used, could never get working at it, hated every day of it when I was in Ireland, spent 4 or 5 years at that, whatever. But the whole idea was those years in Canada, 5 years, and in 2 years, you could say I was broke. I mean, money, it was just very difficult to get. So then when I first started getting into meeting a lot more people, but I had, in the 2 years, I had about 15 different occupations. And one of them was selling encyclopedias. Pots and pans I'd done religious pictures in Catholic places where you had to get in there and you had to get the picture up for the Last Supper. I mean, I could go into it all day long and the different things that happened. So,
well, tell me about this. I heard you had a really important audition in Hollywood to sing. And it kind of changed the course of your life.
Okay, well, I had basically, I always wanted to be a singer. I was a singer in Northern Ireland. Started as a teenager. My father was a vaudevillian. He was a tap dancer, singer. He wrote his own scripts. He was a stand-up comic. And I was able to see that as a young boy. I carried his bag, carried his top shoes, his hat, to all these events when I was only about 6 or 7. So I grew up with that pretty much, seeing my father. So I started the idea, well, hey, you know, I'd like to get on stage. So from that standpoint, I started singing as a teenager. My family didn't know about it, but I knew about it. They didn't know anything about it. So I went through that stage. And then within that era, which was in the 50s, I started my bodybuilding career, but I don't want to jump into that if it's not, you know, if you want to get more from the other era. So anyway, it ended up, I was doing little shows here and there, different shows, and then I emigrated to Canada. When I got to Canada, I had a partner, we used to sing together, and we would do the Lord Mayor shows, a lot of the different stuff around. So that kind of way gave me the confidence that we were pretty good, because we were getting booked all over Toronto in different events and so forth. So there's actually a big story in that. I'll just touch on it briefly. departed from my partner at 22 years of age. We were two and a half years both together in Canada as roommates. He got married, and I never saw him again until last year, 65 years later.
Oh, wow.
So here I leave a buddy, my dearest friend, at 22, and I see him again at 82.
Wow.
And that just happened last year.
How was that? How was that meeting?
It was probably, it's very even difficult to describe it in the sense that, what does that feeling give you? How do you explain giving that feeling of how you feel? Here I'm looking at a man coming to a door, opening the door to me at 82 years of age. And I left him at 60 years before. It's even difficult to even try and put that into a formation. But all I can say is it was probably one of the most incredible experiences of my life, that simple meeting someone 60 years later.
Wow. And all the mileage is written on both of you.
Exactly. And to make it more into, I was doing a novel on it, he was living 15 years from me for the last 45 years in California.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know it. I thought he was in England, London, England.
No doubt.
Yeah, so there's little things like that of when you're talking to, then they'll come to being. But I pretty much started in, I had a lucky break. I met a songwriter when I started working at the Beverly Hills Health Club. And they were two sisters, very famous sisters, I forget the name at the moment. But I'd done she wrote a song. There was a song called San Francisco with Tony Bennett. Do you remember that? I left my heart in San Francisco.
Right.
Well, they wrote a duplicate of that. I left my heart in Los Angeles. And I was picked to sing the song by the mayor, Samuel Yorty. Now here I'm bringing a name up that I didn't forgotten about 30, 40 years ago. We're sitting here talking. So I done the opener of that song, and I was to publicize that going around the country, etc. And I think what happened was the lady that wrote it, one of them passed away, and it kind of made everything diminished. But that song they had a Los Angeles song, and I was doing the singing as opposed to Tony Bennett when he was doing San Francisco. Now I'd forgotten all about that to this moment.
Nice.
And that's way 40 years ago.
So you just recorded a video and a song
All right, well,
recently.
if you're coming up now to present day, I done it 3 years ago. And my son, we used the Red Rock over here. This is all I ask was the name of that video.
Oh, right, the first
This
video.
is all I ask. Okay. Now that was a Tony Bennett song. I thought it was okay. I wasn't really, I just thought it was okay. It was good. But other people are seeing a different thing than what the performer's saying, type of thing.
Sure.
So I thought it was okay. But we just finished the second one. I Got the World on a String. And that was only 6 weeks ago.
Oh, that was real recent.
That's only 6 weeks ago. So we done that partly here in St. George, and we were able to get some nice shots in St. George, and then we went to Las Vegas, and then we done the shoot in Las Vegas for 2 days.
Yeah, I heard you recorded it at a pretty cool studio.
And yeah, we did. We done a recording of the song "I Got the World on a String," and then Colin, who's an actor himself, actor, director, producer, and he was able to edit it. And when we come back, he calls me up and he tells me, "Hey, it's already on YouTube," and 6 weeks, and it's brought in 600 hits.
It's pretty good.
So I think the old guy here must have some warble in his voice still. I don't know. So that was very enjoyable. And Lorraine, my daughter, my wife, and my 2 grandkids were part of the video. Have you seen the video?
I have.
Yeah, I've seen the video, okay. The 2 kids were in there, and people ask me, they'll say, God, Bill, is that your house you're living at? No, it's not my house. That home was borrowed. The same with the car. They asked me, is that your car? I said, no, that's not my car. I'm driving a 1430 Ford, so don't. So I had fun with that. So we're now thinking, at this portion, if this one goes down, then we'll probably do a 3rd one.
Fantastic.
3rd video. But the whole, I don't mean this on a negative vein, but you'll probably maybe appreciate it. St. George is not the place to develop a vocation. If you're a singer or if you're into the music, it's very difficult. Roger Moore was over there. He wasn't shooting The Saint, he was shooting some other movie. But I was with Roger for a couple of years, and he was married to one of Britain's #1 singers, by the name of Dorothy Squires. And pretty much that was a good relationship that I had with him.
Which was the hardest star you had to train? Which was the most difficult, would you say, to work with? Try to get into shape.
That's a darn good question. There was an actor, you got to know the personality, whether he was working or couldn't get work. When he couldn't get work, he was very short in his conversation with you, and I knew to leave them alone. And they knew exactly how I understood them. When I knew they were working, and I'm in the gym, they would come down the steps before hitting the gym, and they'd shout for my name. And they'd shout, Bill, this meant they're going to stand me lunch. I knew they got a job. And that was the communication I had. So I would say, in answer to your question, the guys who are a little bit rough on the temper, you know an actor called Anthony Franciosa? All right? Well, you knew when he wasn't working. And it was you knew when most of them weren't working, because it's tough. They had a rent to pay, and you'd see them on screen, but it didn't mean to say they were making a fortune. But when they were working, they were happy, a happier surrounding and everything else. So the one that I got to know very well was Steve McQueen.
I heard you trained him for one of his movies?
Yeah, I worked for him on Bullet. In fact, I just watched it the other night. It was kind of interesting because I remember the car, they had to take the wheels off the car, and they placed on smaller wheels to make it look faster and all that stuff. So all of those, Rock Hudson is a good guy, and a lot of actors, guy played a doctor, I forget a lot, it's funny, it escapes me, we're going back to the 60s and 70s. But I had a relationship with the directors and actors, and it built into the point where when they were working, they were happy campers, but it's a tough business. It's a tough business. But one of my dearest friends that I got to know was called Sheldon Leonard. He done a movie called I Spy. Do you remember the I Spy?
Oh, yeah.
All right, okay. So my wife likes to tell this story, but they offered me 3 months on that as an actor, and I was too naive to really pick up on it, and I turned it down. But I met a lot of good people. Hollywood people are good people, but it's a crazy, crazy world because you're working 1 month, make a lot of money, you may not work for another year. Sure. Unless you're fully established. But I got to know Steve McQueen very well, Hudson and Franciosa, all those guys, and then Paul Lind, and a nutcase by the name of Don Rickles. Do you remember Don Rickles?
Why was he such a nutcase, you think?
Well, the first time, in a good way, first time I was introduced to him, I was put him through his paces, you know, and they told me, Don, here's a guy I wanted to introduce you to, some management. This is Bill Cunningham, he's from Ireland. And Don Rickles looked me straight in the face and he said, this is the first time I'd ever met him, the only thing the Irish are good for are parades. And that's how I met Don Rickles. And from then on, up until, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months later, he was a riot. You couldn't get anything done. It's like you just put him in the class and you knew it was going to be not serious. He just said, so there's him, and there was other comic called Shecky Green. Do you remember Shecky Green?
Sure, of course.
All right, Shecky Green, and Paul Lynn. Paul Lynn. So Paul was a good guy. I had a lot of fun with him. I could go on and on just talking about...
Well, tell me, you got this all started with bodybuilding. This is how you got associated with these stars.
Yes.
Tell me what the bodybuilding
Yeah, the bodybuilding, I started, first of all, my bodybuilding career, I started in Ireland at 17, 18. Wasn't that good, you know, but I did compete a couple of little small shows. And then I went to Canada.
What made you want to do it? What got you into bodybuilding? Was it a friend or?
I was a runner in those days. I was a cross-country harrier, is what they called it. 2 mile, 4 mile, 6 mile runs. And I met a guy that I worked with at my machine shop in Belfast. And he says, what do you do? And I said, what do you want me to do? I said, I'm a runner. He says, oh, he said, I'm into bodybuilding. And I didn't know what bodybuilding was. I was so stupid and ignorant about what it was. And he takes me to it was the first one and the last one in my life to write me a program. He wrote me a program at his home, I'll never forget it. And then we joined his gym in Belfast, and to cut a big long story short, I competed in Junior Mr. Ireland at 19, I think it was.
Wow.
And I remember taking a second or whatever. Still wasn't very good, I looked awful, but thought I looked okay. So when I went to Canada, I started, I didn't give up the training, and I started really getting serious in Los Angeles. And my first show was Mr. Los Angeles, and out of 10 people on stage, I finished 9th. And I figured, whoa, this is ridiculous. I don't want ever this to happen again. I'm standing there in 9th place, and I trained hard for 2 years at the Mr. Los Angeles, and I won it. I won it the next year, and I won it the next year. So I won 3, and I figured, whoa, I think I'm ready now to jump up a bit more. So I met a world-class trainer by the name of Vince Garanda. He ran a gym in Los Angeles. And I started picking up on certain things that I could be doing and wasn't doing, type of thing. So I won my first title, which was Mr. Los Angeles. And then I started to compete. I started taking serious, being used to the stage with the singing. I figured, I was looking at bodybuilders coming out, and I figured, well, I don't really like the muscle head image on stage. I want to be able to be like a dancer, come out. How do I show myself? How can I? So the singing came into being, big time, because it's another audience. The music is being played as you pose. So that pretty much gave me a good foresight into what I had to do, and I became known in the business as one of the best demonstrations of posing. Posing was very, very favorable to me, and I got to the point where I won, again, self-praise is no recommendation, but I won 90% of Best Poser Awards throughout the world. From here to New Zealand, to Australia, to Germany, to Canada, and anywhere I went, if there were steroid bodybuilders there, I knew that the one thing they weren't going to beat me in was my posing. And I was able to nail them on the posing even though they were all freaked out on drugs, a lot of them. So that was a whole era. So I ended up, I didn't know this, as I said, until a few years ago, but apparently I've gone through close to 200 shows.
This is what I heard, 200?
Now, when I tell that to people, they'll look at me and say, you gotta be kidding me. I said, no, I told this to a guy about 2 months ago. He's one of these guys that, you know, he's really deep into the bodybuilding, and I says, no, I think I've done close to 200 shows. Because I've been pretty much, I was with the Olympic team. I made the Olympic team 8 different occasions. So you had to make your place before you got on the team.
Oh, sure.
So there's 25 of us, so it took us to, I retired in Greece, which was the last big one we done. So I've been all over New Zealand, Australia, pretty much all through this country. So it all came down to staying with it, and here they called me up. I retired just 7 years ago, and they called me up and said, Bill, would like you to make the team. I said, no, I'm finished with it, because I've torn shoulders. I didn't get it through, I got it through an accident. I was in a car accident, and then had a repeat of the darn thing. I got knocked really bad in my both shoulders. But the whole idea is it's been more than just lifting weights. It's been a big, and here the guy that introduced me to weight training, again, he probably dead and gone now, but here's a guy that gave me my first lesson and only lesson, and yet he never became a bodybuilder, and I haven't seen him in 60 years.
Wow. And you went on to do...
Well, you know, again, you know, I kind of way, it's more than just showing a body. It was people I met, how to program yourself as far as eating, as far as having a good attitude towards life and being thankful for what you've got, etc. So all that fits into the personality. It's not just, I mean, I see today these guys that are on roids and stuff. I have no time for that.
What's the greatest thing that bodybuilding taught you then? For some guys, it's the meathead thing. What was it for you? What did it teach you?
It taught me that it was the first and best thing to give yourself good health. Number one. To me, I'll put it as number one: ligaments, tendons, muscle, feeling good, feeling better. It has all those, because it brings itself to you are enhancing. Now, what should I eat before this show? What am I going to stay on diet-wise? So it brought me not only as a trainer, but it brought me to where I've lectured throughout the country.
I hear you're still training even today. You're helping out with kids. Is there something you're doing?
I do a charity work with a lot of seniors and some of the younger kids. You know, they're in there, and I can see they're doing stuff that they'll do it from the hell freezes over. Nothing's going to happen. So I'm able to put them right, and then it gives me that understanding of, hey, that's where I was at one time. So I like to be able to give a helping hand to wherever I can in all matters. So the bodybuilding world has taken me through all the different countries, and it has given me, out of the 200 shows or close to it, I've come out of that with about 140, 150 different titles. So, but
and Mr. Universe?
It's a journey. I've won 3 of them.
Wow. After 60, is that right?
Oh yeah, I won the over 50, I won the over 60, and I won, the last one was over 70.
Wow.
And that was in Las Vegas. And I'm 83 now, so that was, I retired 75.
Fantastic.
75. So But again, it's...
You're in the Guinness Book of World Records too, aren't you, Dad?
Really?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. Again, it's only...
The Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame, right?
Oh yeah, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
In the
2013, from the Los Angeles, USA Bodybuilders Association. So they inducted me into the Hall of Fame in 2013.
Wow, that must have been pretty special for you.
Yeah, it was very special, very, very special. So I had that, and then I have other Guinness Book of World Records stuff that I was just telling my daughter, I just conscious of that a few months ago. Guinness Book of World Records, I went back and won the Mr. Ireland 27, and then I went back a second time, I think it was 2 years later, and I won it again. And I waited until I was going on 60, and I went back and I won it again. 38 years later. That's a Guinness Book of World Records.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so...
And now you're going to be singing. Do you still work out? I hear you go to the gym.
Yeah, I do the best I can, lower the shoulders. But I still work out, yeah. Light, and that sort of thing. I don't need to have all that weight anymore. So I work out light, and my singing, of course, is it's a great hobby for me. It's a great outlet.
Has it been difficult getting back into the swing of it? I heard you started back 5 years ago. Was it tough?
Not really, because I never left the stage. I never left the stage, so I was, before I went into the bodybuilding thing, I was performing actually at Jerry Lewis's restaurant on Sunset Boulevard for a while. It was a year and a half, whatever it was. And then I gave it up for 30 years until 5 years ago. And I'm just using it as having fun, that's it. So I'm hoping to do a third video with Colin, and hopefully my daughter and wife, the way we done it before, we had a lot of fun with it.
Would you like to shoot it somewhere around here, or?
Yeah, I don't know where Colin's thinking of doing something again, wherever we're going to shoot it. But it was I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it.
How is it working with him as a director? He's giving you orders, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think I take orders very well because I feel confident in what I'm going to do. So if I make suggestions, I think he'll think about the suggestion or not, type of thing. So it's it's pretty much being able to take direction well. That's pretty much means a lot. It's taking direction well. So I think I do that, and hopefully we do a third one, and so forth. So looking forward to the third one.
What would be the best advice to people trying to put their life together and pursue their dreams? What advice would you give them? Because obviously you have followed your dreams. So what advice would you give for others?
Well, again, you could pick out, you could take what you're saying as an overall spectrum of things, but it's like putting your life back together. It could be a very simple thing to put your life. You take a guy maybe has lost his voice, or you take a guy that maybe has been in the war as a cripple or something. So you're looking at different perspectives. You're looking at some that are very serious, and you're looking at some that, oh, what the hell, he was like a mother and father. Well, what the hell are you talking about? Just get out there and do your thing. So I think the whole idea comes down to not being selfish for yourself, but adding something to somebody else's life. It's not all about you or me. It may seem that way, but the whole idea, if I'm at the gym and I'm helping someone, I'm not thinking of me. I'm thinking of them. What can I do for them? Because indirectly, I believe in an energy base. My daughter and I have talked about it a lot of times. And that energy is, the more you stimulate advice in a good direction, if you can give good advice, it comes back at you. You salvage that yourself. You never let go of it. Somebody's borrowing it from you, but they're not taking it from you. So in answer to your question, depending on the situation, I've seen guys that have been out of the game for many years with an accident like I had, but I tell them, hey, I can't lift the weight I'm lifting, but I can make it to the gym and I can do something. I can really do something for myself and for other people, and I can wire them up to whatever they want to do is going to help them. So it's to me, it's just a matter of, it's like instead of I look at it even, I don't want to get into the political thing but a hand out is different than a hand up. I will give you a hand up, not a handout.
I'm with you.
You
I totally agree with you on that.
You agree with that on that one? Okay, that can take on an awful lot of space, everything that we do in life pretty much. So to me, a hand up is where it's at, pretty much very basic in life. But the whole idea is if you mean it well, you do it well, whatever you can pretty much pass along to your grandchildren or whoever, your own children, whatever, and just hopefully that part of that personality. I mean, I'm totally different personality than my wife. My wife's an entirely different personality.
Sure.
I'm more subdued, I'm more whatever. Not saying that's making me better, but I'm saying we're all different, but it all comes down to the one thing: how can I help you? How can I make you a better person? And so forth. And that really indicates a lot of stuff.